Hi everyone, I'm Sam, welcome to the channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how I painted this bauble, you can see it, shiny bauble in acrylic paint. I thought it was quite a good little study to do to see if I could paint something shiny. So I thought what I needed to do was break down my painting into sections of things that I need to improve on. And I've noticed over the last couple of months that some of my coloured pencil drawings were looking a little bit flat to me. They weren't looking as 3D as I wanted them to be, and I wasn't quite sure why, and I didn't really know how to make that better. My plan with the next couple of paintings was to try and make them pop. And I know that colour is not as important as values with that, so you need to get your darks as dark as they need to be and your lights as light as they need to be. So I know this and I know what I need to achieve. My colour mixing is still very beginner, and so I thought, why not really focus on something that the colour mixing isn't as important and just focus on one thing at a time. So a shiny bauble, very seasonal. I thought it was a good place to start. There are a few things I'm kind of happy with, and there are a few things that definitely need work on. But I think overall, I think the background was a bit of a bad choice. It just so happened that I only had a grey towel available, and it was my own reference photo, and I thought I'd quickly just set up a little still life to paint. So grey probably wasn't the best option, but I'm not confident enough to change the background and then see how that affects the shine on the bauble. So I'm going to show you how I did it, and I'm going to show you some of the things that I think went well and some of the mistakes that I made. But I hope you enjoy this video and get some helpful tips and maybe something that you could think about doing for yourself. I'd love to see if you paint a bauble yourself, or some of the things that you picked up. It'd be really great to have a conversation in the comments. So please leave a comment if you can, like and subscribe if you're enjoying this type of video, and let's get on with the painting. So I didn't record the beginning part of this sketch, but I basically drew a circle to represent the bauble, and now I'm just going in and mapping out where the shadows are, where the shine is, all the little details that I just need to make sure that I get in to create that shine. And now I'm just going in with a very, very light wash of, I've mixed raw sienna with some water, and I'm going in with a light wash just to make sure I get the tonal values. And now going in with the darkest part, so I've mixed some ultramarine blue with some raw umber, making sure that I stay away from the black because that tends to flatten the colour. It just absorbs all of the light, so it's going against what I'm aiming to do with this piece, which is to try to get it to look as 3D and to pop, not look flat at all. So now going in with some of the mid-tones, I've got a light wash, and I'm using just quite a small amount of colours. I'm using yellow oxide, a little bit of the cadmium yellow, the raw sienna, I've got some ultramarine blue mixed in there, and some titanium white, just to make sure that it's quite light, I'm not going in with darker colours. And I'm just adding a little bit more titanium white to that mix to make sure that it's a bit lighter, and just blocking in the colours, really just trying to work out where all of the different colours go, not adding too much detail at this stage, just mapping out where the shadows are in the piece that holds the bauble to the tree. I don't know what that's called, it's a bit like a crown, I don't know whether that's it. And now adding bit more titanium white to this mix. It's certainly not titanium white on its own, it's got quite a few different colours mixed in, but I'm just adding the lightest part, which is the shine, and then adding a little bit of detail to the other parts that carry this shine. So the shine had quite a lot of reflection in it. The middle section, which I've left out, actually had me reflected in it with my phone, which was taking a photo, so I didn't want to go into that level of detail. So what I'm trying to do is just work through the mid-tones and try to work out the values, so the darkest darks, the lightest lights, to create that 3D look and to hopefully make it look as shiny as possible. So now I'm just going in with a little bit of a darker part, so the bottom part was the darkest, and I'm trying to blend the grey and the darker colour together to create some kind of blended look. As you can see, this paint is quite shiny, so I've added quite a lot of water to this. Going back in with that raw umber and ultramarine blue mix,
which is the darkest colour that I have. Just adding a little bit of detail, just lightening up so you can see some of that raw sienna coming through my wash underneath. So I've added a bit more titanium white and making the paint a little bit thicker to make sure that I cover the canvas completely. Now this part is the curve of the window that I'm just adding a little bit of detail to, and using that colour to map out the highlights of the top part of the bauble, and adding a little bit of detail. I added a little bit of the cadmium yellow light here because it was a little bit of a yellowish tone, and as I've said before, I'm not particularly confident with my colour mixing at the moment, so it tends to not really come out the way I want it to, so I need to practice that a lot more. But for this study I just wanted to think about the 3D aspect and trying to get that shine in. So just adding a little bit of detail with that darkest colour now. I've actually mixed a lot of these acrylics, not only with water but with a fluid retardus, and what that does is it slows down the drying time, because I have found that the acrylics were, because I'm so slow with the colour mixing, were drying on my palette before I actually even got them onto the canvas. So this slows the drying time down by 50%, so it enables you to, I suppose it's a bit more forgiving for us beginners, that we can actually get the paint onto the canvas and then come back to a certain colour without worrying that it's actually going to dry out on you, not able to use it. So darkening up certain areas and lightening up others, so making sure that I'm following the reference photo just to see where the highlights are. Now the reflection in the bottom third of this bauble was actually the towel, and I think I made it quite difficult for myself because it was a really textured surface, so I was trying to observe that texture and give that impression that it was a bit bumpy, and I don't know if it was very successful or not. So maybe next time that's something to make a note of, that I would just use something quite smooth. It might be a bit easier than something really bumpy and textured like a towel. So I'm going to think about that for next time if I'm going to do my background. It would have been nice to have just a clean reflection. So just adding a little bit of detail to the top now, just adding those shadows, trying to give that impression of the shapes that hit the bauble and adding some shadow there. I didn't want to go into too much detail. The main point of this study was, as I said, the reflection and the shine and the 3D aspect, so just following that part of the reference photo as closely as possible. I didn't want to take too long over this, just wanted to see how it turned out for this study. Just adding some detail, you can see the shape of the room that was reflected, quite obscured but reflected in the middle part of the bauble, and I'm just lightening up the bottom part of the towel just where the light hit. I placed the bauble in the window, so there was quite a lot of light here, and then just blending in with a little bit more of a grey tone. I didn't add any black, I was just adding blue and the raw umber, which made quite a nice colour. Going in with a smaller brush now, just adding a little bit of detail, just sharpening up some edges so they're not so blended. Lightening up that section of the wall, because it wasn't just one block colour here, there were a few different colours that made it up, so I wanted, you know, all of these little details are quite important to make it look quite realistic, so you do need to follow that closely. And I went in with a dry brush now because I wanted to just blend those colours together. The colour underneath was a little bit wet, so I'm working wet on wet, just sharpening up the shadows at the bottom. And I was just using this dry brush just to kind of stipple to get a little bit of that texture of the towel. I'm using a fine brush just to add a little bit more detail with mainly titanium white mixed in with some ultramarine blue and some raw umber to create that kind of greyish brown colour. That was the detail of the window. And just blending the shine a little bit so it's not so severe around the edges. And I think that's almost it for the bauble. I'm just adding a little bit more highlight to the left hand side where the light is just catching, and just darkening up where the window led, or the shadow between the towel and the bauble. So there's the finished painting of the bauble. I thought I'd just speed up the background painting just so that it's kind of grounded, it's in situation, it's not floating in midair. But I did this quite quickly, as you can see. It's not great. I'm not particularly happy with that, and I wasn't happy with the colour from the start, so I didn't want to take too much time over this. The bauble was the main study, just adding a little bit of shadow underneath. So that's the finished painting. I think it looks quite shiny. Shame about the background, but it was a lot of fun to paint.
I hope you enjoyed this video and got some helpful tips, and hopefully it's inspired you to paint something of your own, maybe a Christmas bauble. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you've enjoyed this video, and to press that bell icon to make sure you're notified of future videos, and I look forward to seeing you next time.